You first. How would you decide? I don't know.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Kent with Bent. I'm here, as usual, with my co-host, Bent Hovind. Hey, Bent, how's it going?
What's up?
Yeah. Having a good day?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, welcome everybody who's here. Yes, I know that this is probably not at the normal time that you're used to for my Tuesday night shows, but that's because I didn't change my clocks. So, for Bent and I, this is actually the usual time, and all my other shows have shifted around. And I don't want to shift it on Bent because, you know, it was scheduled at this time out of convenience to him. So, and
It's 6 o'clock. I don't know what everyone else's clocks are doing.
Well, they're changing.
They should just not.
I agree with you. In fact, I think we've had this conversation. They really should just stop. In fact, you don't have to listen to the government when it tells you what time it is. You can just put your clocks on whatever you want.
I mean, they say that it's daylight savings time, but no one's saved it so far, so I don't think it's working.
Maybe daylight is kind of like Christmas, where everyone thinks it always needs to be saved, but actually, it never really does need to be saved. It's fine. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are here not primarily to complain about clock changes and whatnot, but to listen to Kent Hovind and point out why what he says is almost invariably dumb. Although, to be fair to him, he does sometimes get things right, and we acknowledge that. And so, as you can see, we have a drink timer, so if you're new here, we're going to go over the drinking rules, and then we're going to hop into it. So, first of all, we will take a... Well, actually, first of all, what I want to say is, hey, if you decide you want to play along, which you absolutely don't have to, is also fine if you decide to play along with something that isn't alcohol. If you want to take it's from your vape pen, eat a chip, drink soda, water, juice, tea, coffee, whatever, that's also absolutely fine. This is one of those things where, like, it's just for fun. Do not feel any pressure to, like, overindulge. And in fact, you should know your limits and pace yourself. Now, that being said, if you do play along with an intoxicating substance, please do not then go out and drive a car, operate heavy machinery, fly an airplane, or text your ex. Those are all really bad ideas.
Don't break the law and make stupid decisions.
Yeah. So, now that we have the little disclaimer there out of the way, and I note that neither myself, nor Bent Hovind, nor the channel, nor anyone else accepts any legal liability or responsibility for you playing along and then doing something stupid. Now, let's get into the rules. So, the first one is that we will take a drink anytime that Kent Hovind says something so stupid we just kind of have to cool our brains down. Then we'll also take a drink if he actually gets something factually correct. Now, that's going to be one of our rarer drink triggers. But by the end, if I don't have too many drinks on the board and I'm thirsty, I might get generous. You know, he might say something like, well, you know, Eric is my son here. And like, yeah, okay, hey, that's true. Normally I wouldn't, but like, you know. Also, if he tells a story that doesn't happen, we'll take a drink. Now, that one is a bit of a judgment call. We have to decide whether or not it sounds enough like a story that didn't happen. But, you know, if he says some story that seems extremely far-fetched, like that his daughter converted some museum docent at a paleontology museum to be a young Earth creationist after asking him about whether or not the dating of fossils was circular, we're going to take a drink for that, because that's a thing that didn't happen.
Yeah, that definitely didn't happen.
Yeah, there might be a real thing that he's basing that story on that did happen, like maybe his daughter actually did go to a museum and ask this question, but like, the whole totality of this is a story that that's not a thing that ever happened, so we'll take a drink for it. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind decides to reference that political party from Germany from the 1930s that was very important in the subsequent decade or two in Germany, and that's becoming increasingly popular now, apparently. Yeah. Now there are objections from certain decently sized demographic segments of the United States population when Nazis are bad guys in games, which, like, That's
what
how you
are we
tell on
even
yourself.
doing here?
Yeah, that's how you tell on yourself right there. Yeah. So anyway, we will also, or by the way, or if he mentions, you know, the leader of that party. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind cites a source, and then we check on the source, and not only does the source fail to support him, but actively contradicts him. Because just like flurfs have the law that says that flurf citations always contradict the flurf, there's a weaker version for creationists, which is to say, whenever a creationist cites a non-creationist source, it will not support their point. Now, it doesn't always contradict the point. Sometimes it's just unrelated. So that's why it's a bit weaker. And I have to put in non-creationist, because sometimes they will actually cite creationist sources, which do generally support what they're saying. It's just that the source itself is usually... So, we'll also take a drink. We call it... that source one is called Trojan source, by the way. And no, I did not make up that term, and I don't know if Holy Kool-Aid did. And no, we don't have beef. We actually talked about this, and we both agree that neither of us know if the other one came up with it first, and both of us claim not to have invented it. So don't at me about that, because people have added me about that with Holy Kool-Aid.
Weren't they saying it was logicked?
It might have been logicked. I don't know. See, that's the thing. None of us know, and I've talked to Logics too. And none of us know, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I talk in the background to more people than you think I do. So, yeah. Let's see. Princess Mishkin, 425 Polish Loti says, "Yay, Dapper Stream. Maybe now I'll get enough water in. Be generous, people. I'm so dehydrated. Insert Godzilla. We will take a drink for the inserted Godzilla. Thank you very much."
Hydrate or dihydrate.
It's true. And actually, I was actually sent a paper not that long ago indicating that you actually get a lot more water from things like drinking beer than you might think, or even drinking soda.
Oh, and Ramda puts in the chat says, "I thought it was rationality rules." That's who I was thinking of, not logic.
Or maybe it was rationality. Yeah, I don't think I've talked to rationality rules about it. I don't know. No, I am not claiming to have made it up. Pillowpunk for $10 says, my dry leaf arts building is going well. The short range has kind of forced me to get better at reading moves and dodging. But that aggressive playstyle is so much fun. Highly recommend. Well, I'm going to assume that Dry Leaf Arts is some kind of game that I am not aware of. In fact, you know what? I'm going to pull up Steam and look to find out what kind of game it is, so that I know what the heck is going on here. Of course, with my luck, it won't be on... yeah, it's not on Steam, of course. Fun. I suck at this. Why do people watch this?
Got me.
Oh, it's a weapon in Elden Ring. Got it. Yeah, I probably should have known that, but I don't have the names of most of the martial arts that weapons in my head. I'm sorry. But hey, that is cool. And I did ask the Pillowpunk to keep me updated on the progress of the martial arts only playthrough of Elden Ring, because to me that sounds like torture. But then again, I'm one of those scrubs who's like, yeah, Dex Arcane Bleed build seems like a good time, which is basically just playing the game on easy mode for most of the bosses. So, you know, I probably don't have much room to talk. Then Jessica Transmetal Alchemist gifted Far Eye Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So what I'm going to do is, hey, Ben, could you give people the drink triggers that will go off as a result of things like this? You know, like things in the chat that people can do to make us drink while I take my 5 drinks.
So if you gift memberships, Dapper will take a drink for each. If in your super chat you include one of the 3 following emojis of Ghidorah, Mothra, or Godzilla, he will take a drink. Those are just those 2, right?
Yeah, there's the AIG one.
And the other one is some variation of AIG as a bag of dicks, either by using the emoji specifically created to telegraph that, or if you come up with a clever way to get around YouTube's censorious super chat system.
Usually the easiest way to get around it is to just say it in some other language, because apparently YouTube does not care to censor any language but English, as far as I can tell. Which is a little weird to me. Like,
it's the only language.
Why is it okay in Spanish? Actually, YouTube recommends me Spanish language videos fairly regularly, and sometimes
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's not just your fault, but it's not your fault either. Because yeah, just recently Bent has gotten a lot better at Spanish.
It's an easy language to learn.
It is.
It's also very useful.
I'm wondering why Chesh is planning to learn Korean on her channel. It's like, I mean, hey, it's cool, but like, why Korean specifically?
Probably because of like the media.
Yeah, but she mostly watches Chinese media for like Asian drama stuff. She always send me clips from Chinese dramas. Almost never see her drop a K-drama clip.
Does Chesh listen to like K-pop? Maybe that's why.
There is one Korean band that she likes.
Okay.
But it's like just that one band. I don't know. I wouldn't learn a whole language just for one band. But maybe she likes that band a lot more than I think she does. Okay, so I think the only one that we didn't mention is that if Kent mixes up what we can know about Lucy from just the skeleton of Lucy, then if he mixes that up with what we can know about any larger taxon to which she belongs, we call that an ad hominid, and we take a drink for that. We'll also do one if I screw up the production. So, for instance, if I fail to unmute Bent for myself, or I switch to the wrong scene, or something like that. That's a dapper as a professional, and I take a drink. And
there's also a drink trigger if you hear Mothra or Godzilla coming through Dapper's phone speaker.
Yes. All right. All right, Bent, are you going to become any more ready for this in any like short amount of time?
No.
That's what I. Oh, hey, Princess Michigan for 100 Polish Lodi says, "Hail evolution, mother of species, our life, our fitness, and our change. You then, most gracious theory, our eyes complexity gave us, and after this survival adaptation, you gave us fruit of thy womb, genome, or genome if you're
if you're nasty,
Charles Jackson, or yeah, I guess that. Very nice. You know what? You should be someone who's helping me produce Cult Mechanicus prayers. Because those are always fun, too.
Yeah, I'll make sure and help you write all of them.
Yeah. And if you can do
I Bent Hovind am committing to helping you, Dapper Dinosaur, write all of those Warhammer prayers.
That is very generous of you as someone who has stated that you don't care about Warhammer.
I Bent Hovind care quite a lot about Warhammer.
Wow, that's
to the point
big change.
That I Bent Hovind of Sound Mind and Body in the presence of these witnesses
and
will help you write and God will help you write Warhammer prayers for Cult Mechanicus.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that.
It's just one of my many benefits.
I'll walk over later and see how you're doing. All right.
Yeah, you can definitely check on that in a couple hours.
All right. So, is everyone... Well, yeah, we're ready. I already checked on this. I don't need to ask again. Okay. Here we go.
The guy who has the patent on the MRI machine.
Oh, right. He was talking about how you don't have to go get a real degree to be a scientist or an inventor. And yeah, he's right. That's true. You don't. It helps because it makes it much more likely that you're going to be able to know how to do whatever it is, experiment or study or whatever that you're working on. But yeah, there's no requirement to have a degree to publish in a journal or to get a patent or anything. Goop23 for $2 says, "I'm on desktop for once with a Mothra." Well, awesome. Thank you very much. And, Goop2, you are one of my favorite interviewees for Leaving Young Earth Creationism, a show which I don't really recruit for anymore because, my goodness, are the guests flaky as hell. I had 3 episodes in a row just fall through because the guest just stopped responding to emails or messages or anything. I was like, all right, well, I give up.
Was Kip ever a Young Earth creationist?
I don't know. Well, I'll see if Vishanti can ask him.
Okay.
She might know.
Is a creationist.
So, okay, the guy who's on the patent for the MRI. First of all, I have no idea whose name is on the patent for that. Maybe it is the creationist who helped create it. However, by the accounts of everyone involved in the project, he was assisting with the creation of the MRI machine as an engineer. And yes, he did in fact do vital work on it, but he is not the sole inventor of the MRI machine. It was a team effort, which is not terribly surprising. But also, yeah, creationists can invent things. I don't think anyone has ever really contested this. Bent, have you ever heard anyone say that creationists aren't able or aren't allowed to invent things?
Can't say that I have.
Yeah,
It
Robert
sounds
Gentry.
fake.
it does sound fake.
Who
Yeah, Robert Gentry.
who lost his job at Oak Ridge Laboratories in Knoxville, Tennessee, because
That
they
also
found out.
sounds fake.
Well, so he did lose his job. So the thing is, with all of these, this creationist was fired for being a creationist stories. They're almost always, it's almost always true that a job was lost by this creation. What's almost never, as far as I can tell, and in fact, I've never actually seen an instance verifiable, true, is that they lost it for being a creationist. So, for instance, Mark Armitage says that he lost his job because of all of his creationist publications. It's like, but the school shut down the laboratory you were running. They don't even have it anymore. So, like,
So
what job-
everyone lost
Right.
their job.
right. So, like, that's probably not because of your creationism. And that's how it is for basically all of them. Although sometimes it's less that the department or the laboratory shut down, and more that the actual story is that the creationist in question was fired for being a sex pest with the students. That comes up too.
That'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Hey, don't pressure your students into having sex with you as a professor, because creationist or not, a really great way to get fired. And also,
Yeah.
just be a scumbag.
Very
Richard Carrier.
unethical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abuse of power.
Naromdipus for $5 says, everyone knows engineers are the best people to ask about the age of the Earth. yeah, there is a lot of that going on. Oh, well, no. What's the name of that? There's like a law. Oh, I just screwed up the numbers thing here on the tracker for the donations.
Dapper's a professional.
It's true, I am. So yeah, and I just lost my train of thought. So I'm just gonna hit play. It doesn't matter.
He was a creationist. He wrote the book that we sell called Creation's Tiny Mystery, about the radio polonium.
You know what
halos.
other books Kent used to sell in his store when he had one?
Is it the Protocols of the Elders of Zion?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know who didn't know that?
Did Bent? You?
A certain Nehemiah Gordon who interviewed
Oh, yeah. I remember
Nehemiah
that.
Gordon, the Jewish guy who just
Yeah.
thought he would be interesting and just didn't do any research whatsoever and had no idea that this guy was a raging anti-Semite.
I thought that Vishanti reached out to him or something.
I mean, she asked him recently and confirmed that just did no research, just had him on because he thought it would be interesting, didn't look up a thing about him, and was just positively shocked when Kent started saying anti-Semitic things.
Right, I was going to say, didn't he get kicked off the show for basically saying that the Jews only cared about money or some shit?
Yeah, he made a joke, and Nehemiah was just gobsmacked.
Yeah.
And ended up cutting the interview early.
Yeah, I saw that interview. It was cringy.
Very cringe.
Carnival Frog, who's been a member for 21 months, says, Happy Tuesday, with a Mothra emoji, which means we'll take a drink for that, and then also gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you very much. So I will take 5 more drinks while Bent tells us why Romulans are the best species in Star Trek.
Romulans are the best species in Star Trek because they're honest about their emotions, unlike Vulcans who want to pretend like they shouldn't have them at all, but they actually feel very deeply. But because they ignore it, they're out of control. When, a Romulan can just express their frustration and not completely turn into a raging maniac.
Well, some might argue that actually many of them do turn into raging maniacs.
They do, but it's not like Vulcans where if they just barely experience any emotion whatsoever, they just, can't control it.
Yeah, like Sarek towards the end of his life.
Yeah.
He had whatever
This
syndrome.
is why that 3-episode Vulcan arc of Enterprise was so cool.
Yeah. All right, we got a few more things. Grievous for $5 says, "Oh, I was fired from my religion." Looks inside. Editorial fraud. Yes, I'm reusing this as verbatim as I can with the Mothra. We'll take a drink for the Mothra. Yeah, that's true. Another guy who was a creationist was fired from his editorial position at a journal for letting, I believe it was Stephen Meyer, publish an article in the journal that just wasn't peer-reviewed at all. They just skipped that process. And so then, like, the board on that journal was just like, so no one peer reviewed this at all, and you published it. It was like, yeah. Like, well, you're fired. It's like, help! I'm being oppressed for my religion. Like, no, you just failed basic ethics. You did a blatantly unethical thing, and now you're being fired for it. That's how that works. That's how it should work. I'm a lot harsher when it comes to unethical nonsense from creationists than people like Joshua Swamidass. Because Joshua Swamidass is like, oh, I don't think we should pull, credentials from like creationists and whatnot, and I think their schools should still be able to grant degrees. And I'm like, I'm okay if they just want to grant like an accounting or an English degree, but no STEM degrees should be accepted as valid from any creation. Not one. Like, I'm sure a creationist school can teach you to be a perfectly fine accountant or like get a business degree or whatever. But science, technology, engineering, medicine, no.
Okay, how did you pronounce this last time?
Thylacoleon Kennedy.
Thylacoleon says, hearing the name Stephen Meyer activates my fight or flight response, and I am a flightless mammal.
Yeah, I don't want to get dragged into a Stephen Meyer rabbit hole. We're supposed to be talking about Kent. This is Kent with Bent. I'm here with Bent. Okay, time for more Kent.
He was one of the world's experts on granite, because he was assigned the task of,
What a weird thing to be a world expert on.
Yeah, it's like, put that on your resume. I'm an expert on granite.
Yeah. Well, I'm the world's expert on chert, so take that. I'm not, by the way. In fact, I probably couldn't identify chert if you asked me to, so don't ask me to.
Deciding where do we put radioactive waste. After a nuclear power plant gets done, you got this barrel of radioactive material. What do you do with it? You don't want it in your backyard.
Ground.
Yeah, generally. And then you put up a sign that says, "This is not a place of honor."
You put lots of jaggedy things to try to dissuade people, and semiotics. It's a whole rabbit hole.
It is a super deep rabbit hole. Although it's interesting. And also, it's like one of those weird times where humans are like, okay, but what about people in 20,000 years? Normally, I never think about what people are going to be doing in 20,000 years and how I could affect that. But for some people, they're like, we should plan for this.
It's like, well, the stuff that takes thousands of years to just decay the teeniest little bit, we should probably put something up just in case.
Let's see.
It's going to be radioactive for a long time.
It is.
It's bad.
Naramda puts for $2 says, is this a super chert? It is a super chert. Thank you very much.
It's a super chert.
Dutch Tunicate Official for $2 says, don't take granite experts for granted. I like it. All right, let's see what we have about polonium halos. And do you know about polonium halos? Because this has been a big talking point for creationists for so long.
Isn't this where they say that their decay rate is so quick that something miraculous would have to happen to encase them in the granite crystals, therefore creation?
Yeah, that's basically the summary of it, yeah.
Okay.
Also, Babaton says, hello, Dapper, hello, Vishanti. Well, I'll tell Vishanti that you said hello. I'll have to try to remember. Bent, can you remind me later to tell Vishanti that Babaton said hello?
I'll make a note.
Okay, thank you. Grievous for $5 says, it's a super deep rabbit hole and digging into it is discouraged with a Mothra. Yeah, it is one of those things where, like, maybe you don't want to dive into that rabbit hole because it goes to weird places. And, including, like, imposing an unfriendly architecture being used for good rather than evil. Because, generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of hostile architecture, but if it's like, but what if it's there to keep people away from the super deadly radiation? Then I'm like, yeah, okay, that's actually a pretty good purpose for some hostile architecture. Yeah,
acceptable use case for hostile architecture.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, like, generally speaking, you should absolutely never do. But there's like one weird exception, like dressing in a Nazi uniform. One weird exception for when you should do that. When you're playing one on a TV show or movie as the villain. Like, okay, yeah, movies need villains. Those are good villains. Yeah, you can. That's an acceptable time. Yeah, or like hostile architecture, protecting people from horrible radiation. So, good time to use it. Tea time, which actually that looks like your name is significantly longer, but I'm not sure how to shows up. No, just tea time tea. Okay. Says for $5, AIG doesn't know schist with the Mothra and Godzilla. That's a surprisingly good rock pun. I am impressed. That's good stuff. I like it. And I took a drink, and I don't remember if I incremented the drink counter, so I'm incrementing it now, and that's just what it's going to be. Yep. Let's see.
For sure. So they dig deep holes and they bury it in granite. Well, as they were taking samples of granite from all over the world, Robert Gentry's looking at these things under the microscope, and he finds out they have little rings in them, circles, called radiopolonium halos. And we'll get into that later, how it absolutely proves the Earth was created cold, like the Bible says.
Does the Bible say it was created cold? I don't remember that part.
I mean, I don't think it specifies either way, but like also, granite's an intrusive igneous rock. It can't form cold. So unless God
also, don't the halos mean that it's holy, like a saint?
I think this might be a different kind of halo.
Hmm.
Although, I am now debating whether or not I should get the new Halo game. And like, part of me is like, no, you already have that Halo game. You've bought that Halo game like 3 times. You don't need to buy that Halo game again. But then other parts of me,
this version of
yeah, that's the thing. It's other parts of me are like, yeah, but this version of the game has usable fuel rods and plasma swords, whereas none of the other versions did. It's like, that's true. Although they also removed your ability to one-shot, what do you call them? The hunters with the pistol.
No, that's lame.
It is lame. Because it used to be that was the skill move, right? You know, they do the big one overhead smash move. You dodge around them and get the one shot off with the pistol, and they drop. That was how you knew someone was good at Halo. But now
you're supposed to make games more fun, not less fun.
Yeah, right. Although they do now the worms inside the hunter armor do actually like fall out when you damage them and like wriggle on the ground. That is fun.
Can you stomp them and make them little squishy blobs on the ground?
I don't actually know. And actually, one of the few things that I really liked about the Halo show was their like use of the hunter worms, because like you don't actually see a hunter in the armor, but there's one scene where like someone's pretending to be like trapped on a Covenant ship as a refugee, and she's like trying to infiltrate the humans, and like a bunch of the hunter worms crawl across like the ceiling and like burrow into people, and it's horrifying and gross. And I was like, you know what? Overall, I'm not a huge fan of the show, but that scene, that was pretty cool. Also,
Terry Rana in the chat says you are the John Halo.
Yes, that is the name of the protagonist of the Halo series, is John Halo. Just like the name of the protagonist of the Zelda series is in fact Zelda. And yeah, we need to have a Zelda who's a girl sometime. I actually saw that as a tweet, like, imagine if Zelda was a girl. I was like,
spoiler alert.
Zelda is a girl.
And the Earth is not billions of years old. And so his articles are being published in all the major magazines all over the world. Science Magazine, Nature Magazine, everybody publishes this amazing.
I do appreciate that this time he actually named some real journals, because normally he's like National Geographic or Scientific American, or because Kent, he'll say National Pornographic.
Would you just trade magazines and not journals?
Right. It is always weird to me that he calls it National Pornographic on the grounds that like sometimes bare breasts appear in the covers. It's like, if that's what he thinks pornography is, maybe Kent should just not be on the internet. Because, oh boy.
Yeah, I definitely think he should be taken off the internet.
Yeah, well, he was taken off YouTube several times. And now, actually, people send me every once in a while, like, some channel that has Kent videos on it, and it doesn't actually seem to me like it's Kent uploading. It seems like it's someone else downloading his Rumble videos and uploading them to YouTube, because they're, like, spotty and infrequent, and, like, it doesn't, like, the dates don't always seem to line up with when things were produced. So, right now, I haven't seen anything that I actually think is actually Kent. I've just seen people re-uploading his Rumble stream.
Can people monetize that?
Okay. Are they supposed to be able to? No. Are they able to? Yes, if they can actually build it up to a big enough following. But they probably won't be able to do that.
Dapper, I have an idea.
Oh, what is it, Bent?
I think we may have solved some income problems.
Oh. Are you going to start just mirroring Kent Hovind videos?
I mean, I would never break the terms of service.
Right. What if someone else were to do that and then give you the ill-gotten gains?
Yeah. I mean, if someone else did that and made money off of Kent that Kent wouldn't receive, I don't see a problem with that.
That's fair.
Stuff by Robert Gentry about this new find of radiopolonium halos. Until somebody figured out, this proves the Big Bang Theory is not true.
What?
How would that prove the Big Bang Theory is not true?
Even if it proved that the granite formed instantaneously, which is what Kent's getting at, that would in no way prove that the Big Bang Theory isn't true, because here's a logical possibility. The Earth was created instantaneously 6,000 years ago inside of a universe that started in the Big Bang 13 point whatever billion years ago. That's a logically possible statement. So, no, it doesn't do that at all. But then again, Kent thinks that the Big Bang is also the same thing as the nebular hypothesis for the formation of the solar system, which is something he's demonstrated repeatedly. So yeah, he does not know the difference between those things. And he seems to think that the Big Bang just, puked out a bunch of planets and stars. And, he even has that as, his graphic for describing the Big Bang. He's got little explosion clip art, and then he's got, planets and stars with, motion lines pointing back towards the explosion clip art, as if the Big Bang happened and it pooped out a bunch of stars and planets. Which, no. Ben, do you watch enough, astronomy stuff to know that is not at all how anything is supposed to have happened?
It's definitely not what happened.
Yeah.
Well, they shut him off like a spigot, man. He couldn't get anything published anywhere.
No, that's not true.
They, huh?
Yeah. Which actually reminds me, I remember the first time I found out that he was selling the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and he was like, well, I don't know if it's actually the Jews who were doing this. Someone is. It's like, come on, Kent. You're selling the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I don't care how much you complain about, oh, I don't think that it's necessarily Jews. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You might not think it's all of the Jews. I'll grant you that. Because I've known...
most of them?
Yeah, maybe just most of them, or maybe just the wealthiest ones. I don't know. But you definitely think that's what it is. Yeah. And, it's always been a lame excuse, because I hear it every once in a while from an anti-Semite. It's like, well, I don't think it's all of the Jews. I just think it's the big, powerful ones. Okay, yeah, sure. Sure, that's what... I don't believe you.
Because it didn't go along with the evolution theory. So he lost his job and grant money. Roger DeHart was told...
Okay, what actually happened, because apparently we're just moving on from that. So, let's go over what the deal is with radium halo. Or, polonium halo, sorry, not radium. So the halo itself is a sphere-shaped marking in the granite. Now, they're usually seen as circles because, you can't, X-ray through granite, so you can't see the full 3D structure. All you can ever get is a 2D cross-section. But, if you were to shave through one of these things, a micron at a time, and then put those back together to form, a 3D picture, it would actually be a sphere. And what the sphere actually is a record of the mean free path length of a particle that's being emitted from a radioactive isotope. So in this case, we're looking at the alpha particle decay of polonium. An alpha particle is just a helium nucleus. It's 2 protons and 2 neutrons. So polonium primarily decays by alpha decay, which is a pretty common way that really heavy nuclei decay. And it does it super fast, right? If you were holding a chunk of polonium in your hands, you wouldn't be by the time I finish this sentence, is how fast polonium decays, right? So in order to get... And also, each particle emitted by a particular radioactive nucleus has a particular energy at which it leaves that nucleus, which is what determines, combined with the nature of the surrounding material, what its mean free path length is. Mean free path is basically the mean free path length is basically the average amount of distance it travels from the nucleus before it interacts with a different nucleus and therefore stops. And usually there's some kind of mark there. It's basically like being burned into the rock. And so the question is, okay, how do we get these polonium halos in granite that, if polonium decays faster than it takes for granite to form, which it does? Well, there's a couple things. One is granite is actually not like perfectly porous and non-smooth. Water can travel through granite, especially if it's high pressure, which it will be underground, which means some of the polonium is actually being moved into place after something else decays, and it's moving that polonium. And the granite that Robert Gentry looked at, that he looked at to see these polonium halos was all stuff that had water contaminating the granite, because we can tell that. There's basically different chemicals and different isotope ratios that will come in if there's water. And second, the polonium is actually a decay product of various other elements that have much longer half-lives that also exist in granite. So what's actually happening is that these these elements are decaying into polonium, and as that's happening, the polonium is being moved through the rock slowly. So you get isolated occasional poloniums that last for a few seconds, and then you get a polonium halo. That's what's actually happening. And sure, it was a little bit of a mystery for a little while, but like it's not anymore. And in order to say that this disproves the ancient age of the Earth, which is what it actually is supposed to do, not evolution or the Big Bang, you would have to ignore all the other, both literal and metaphorical evidence, like piles of evidence against that idea. It's the same thing with Mary Schweitzer. It's like, oh, hey, even if we didn't have a good mechanism for the preservation of these soft tissue remnants, everything else about reality is screaming at us that this dinosaur bone of a T-Rex isn't 4,000 years old. It just isn't.
He could not inform students of errors in the textbooks by passing out articles from...
Yeah, that sounds like a lie. And one of the things that's very common with these stories is that they do tend, in fact, to be lies. Yep. Just straight up lies. Josh McGee's for $5 says, isn't Polonium the one who gave speech to Laertes in Hamlet? I don't think it was Polonium. I think it might have been Polonius. But what do I know? I don't speak Latin. Although, okay, so earlier, I think on Monday, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. So I'm trying to look up Psalm 94 in the Vulgate, right? Because I want to get the Latin text of Psalm 94. And so I'm looking at Psalm 94, and it's like one of those psalms about, like, you know, vengeance is the Lord's and whatnot. Okay, cool. So then I'm looking at the Vulgate text for Psalm 94, and I'm like, this doesn't match up at all. Like, I'm not fluent in Latin or anything, but I can tell that this has absolutely nothing to do with what the English translation is saying. So I'm like, was Jerome just really that bad? Like, that doesn't seem likely. Like, you know, he was pretty decent at translating. He knew Hebrew fairly well, especially for a Christian at the time, because knowledge of Hebrew was almost unheard of among Christians. So, like, that's how I found out that the Septuagint and the Vulgate both use the same numbering system, which is different from the Masoretic text, and that I had to look at, like, Septuagint Psalm 93 to get translation for Psalm 94. And I was like, well, today I learned. And I actually happen to be of the opinion that the Septuagint numbering is the older ordering than the Masoretic text ordering. Because what the Septuagint does is it combines two psalms that together, if you combine them in the Masoretic text, would make a complete acrostic. Whereas if you keep them split up, each one is half of an acrostic, which is weird. I think originally those were probably one psalm. And then later on, there's like one psalm in the Masoretic numbering that you can just easily split, and it comes out to be two perfectly normal psalms if you split them. And like, yeah, I think that's probably the older ordering, but like, also doesn't matter. But so yeah, now you guys know. I learned something about the Bible. Happens.
Current science journals. All he did in his science class, he never talked about creation. He would just say, kids, in this book right here on page 95.
He just says, for $2, linguist with a Godzilla emoji. You know, people seem to be under the impression that linguists just know lots of languages. But that's not necessarily true. I mean, they usually are not monolingual, but like, not like linguists are just typically like, oh, I know like 15 languages fluently. They usually don't.
There's an article
Yeah, it's
about,
probably
you know,
like 3 or 4.
Yeah, and even then, in terms of like fluent, like native, like proficiency, it's gonna be significantly lower. It's probably gonna be like 2 or 3.
such and such. But this has been proven wrong. Here's a current science journal showing where it's been proven wrong. Pass it out. Can you
So,
imagine?
does Kent know that even if you were to prove every single tenet of evolution wrong, it would not do anything for proving creation rate?
I don't think he does know that. I think he thinks that it's a true dichotomy. That like, if evolution falls, the only other option is. And specifically, I think he thinks Christian creationism. Although I don't think that he thinks necessarily his exact version of creationism, because he's given some acknowledgement that there are other versions of creationism out there, and that while he thinks that his is the right one, maybe someone else is getting something right about that he might not necessarily currently agree. So he seems to think that there's a basic dichotomy between Christian creationism and evolution. But within the umbrella of Christian creationism, he seems to be open to some amount of like diversity of what could possibly be true within that umbrella. So yeah, like I think he's open to like the canopy that he believes not necessarily being an absolute requirement for creationism, even though he thinks it's real. Which is one of those areas where he disagrees with virtually all the creationists around. Because, you know, it's physically impossible. So most of them just reject it. Yeah.
Imagine that. He was called in to say you cannot inform the kids of more recent research that goes against the textbook.
Yeah, I don't believe that this is a thing that happened.
I don't think that happened.
Let's take a drink for stories that didn't happen. Which reminds me of that movie, Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed, with Ben Stein. It was basically just lie after lie after lie. And every single one of those stories has actually been investigated and found to not have been accurately portrayed in that movie. Yep. In fact, I think that was one of the things that really kicked off this. Creationists are getting fired for their beliefs into like the zeitgeist of creationism. Because like it was around before that, but it wasn't like a major talking point I can remember before that. But maybe I'm wrong and I'm just misremembering, and I can talk. I know English. Let's see. The Real Fearmonger says, "Okay, but you do spend a lot of time talking about grammar of dead languages. That sounds pretty linguisty." Okay, that's true. But I also spend a lot of time talking about paleontology, and no one accuses me of being a paleontologist. So I don't know.
What on earth is somebody thinking?
That if you lie about the reason you were fired, you can get movie and book deals from your co-religionists, who will then fund your lifestyle, which you otherwise would have trouble funding because you've mostly been blackballed out of academia for other reasons. That's probably what someone was thinking. What do you think, Bent?
Sounds legit.
Yeah. Now Becca Justiniano is just trolling me when she says Dapper is a paleontologist. No.
But he was told you can't do that because it went against the evolution theory.
Okay, I very much doubt that it did. Even if I accept everything else about this story as true, which I do not, that would not contradict evolution. You know how I know? Because evolution doesn't generally get contradicted in the literature. You know why? Because it's just real. It's a real thing. It's like saying, oh, hey, look, this paper, it just contradicted the oxygen theory of fire. Maybe phlogiston's back on the book. No, that doesn't happen. You know why? Because fire actually is a rapid oxidation event. There is no such thing as phlogiston. So that's why papers suggesting phlogiston is real don't get published. Unless we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, in which case sometimes phlogiston is real. Unless you're looking at the 5e adaptation of Spelljammer, which got rid of phlogiston and replaced it with the Astral Sea, which was a huge mistake because now it confuses the whole points of Spelljammer versus Planescape. Thanks, Wizards of the Coast. Also, way to make racist monkey men. I actually had that edition of the of the Spelljammer guide with the monkey character who is dressed up like a minstrel show, playing like a little stringed instrument while doing a little jumpy dance, and it's just like, wow, okay. And in their background, they used to be slaves right before the setting starts. That's the background you chose for the monkey men that you're putting in a minstrel costume. Okay, cool. Thanks, wizards. Did no one ever look at this and be like, maybe not? No. Okay. Yeah. To be fair, they did very quickly end that production run that had that illustration, replace it with a different, much less racist illustration. And yeah, that was the only version they sold. And I think they destroyed their remaining copies of the original printing. But I got the original printing. It was, I think, the penultimate Wizards of the Coast product I ever bought, because I don't buy Wizards of the Coast products anymore. My last straw was when they sent the Pinkertons to someone's house. And like, Ben, you played Red Dead Redemption 3. You know about the Pinkertons.
Not good guys.
No. Let's see. Princess Michigan 425 Polish Lodi says, Dapper, people absolutely accuse you of being a paleontologist. Wait, do they? Am I just not aware of this? Ben, have you seen this and just not told me? Is that a thing you've done?
I plead the fifth.
It's true. I'm not a court, so I get to infer a guilt from someone invoking their right to silence, because I'm not on a jury or a judge or anything like that. So I'm going to say that that's true. Bent has been holding out all these accusations on.
I can still plead the fifth in Dinosaur Court.
I don't know if the Dinosaur Court has a Fifth Amendment. In fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Because dinosaurs don't care about the U.S. Constitution. Okay, well, we'll see how that works when my Raven lawyer takes a look at it. Because that's who my lawyer is. It's a Raven. Because, I mean, who else would you want representing you in Dinosaur Court other than a Raven?
I can easily distract them with something shiny.
They don't allow shiny things in Dinosaur Court. You're searched before. For that very reason. And then all your shiny stuff are forfeit to the Ravens who do the searching. And the Magpies. Yeah. It's best to come in completely, like, matte. No gloss. Don't even put on lip gloss.
Gonna start sweating. Sorry.
Well, they have powders for that. Let's see. Charybdis, who's been a member for 53 months and is at the amniote level, says, the absence of phlogiston is the least of the issues with 5e Spelljammer. Yeah, look, no argument there. It was made with a mountain of nose candy on the writing table. Yeah. Another thing that is really weird to me is, okay, right. I know you're not super into TTRPGs, but let's say you had a game about spaceships, right? Do you think you would expect for there to be rules about how to fight from one spaceship fighting against another spaceship?
Yeah, that seems legit.
Yeah, that's not in the 5e Spelljammer book. There's no rules for spaceship combat.
That's weird.
Yeah. It's... like, what was in there, with the exception of the weird racist monkeys, I actually mostly like. I think the space elves are cool. I think the new species are cool. The new monsters are cool. I liked a lot of that stuff. But, like, there's just so many weird things that are just missing. Why is this? Why did you not include this? Like, the most basic stuff people would want, like, hey, I put a ballista on the front of my spaceship. How do I use it? Like, oh, not going to tell us?
The chat says Fifth Amendment, they don't even have fifth digits.
I mean, that's generally true, yeah.
It's brutal.
Modern birds tend to have 3 or 4 digits depending on appendage. Although, I mean, if you add them all together, then you can get like 8 toes and like 6 fingers depending on exactly how you count. You could also make the argument that it's 1 finger, but I'm going to say 6. Or I guess 2 fingers, because... or wing, I don't know.
Kevin Haley was a biology teacher at Oregon Community College. He lost his job for simply exposing errors in the textbooks.
Is that a second guy who did this? Yeah, I guess so. World Magazine.
C World, but it's spelled C as in look.
No, I think what he's meaning is C, like imperative verb, World Magazine. Like go see that, which maybe we can find. See if that's a thing that we can pull up.
Just call the 800 number.
I'm not going to call
Kevin Haley with his phone number right there, like just calling him
that's.
to say, "Hey, is this true?"
I love that Kent uses people's just phone numbers as sources, as if that's going to work. It's such a weird thing. Like, to me, as someone who, is very familiar with, like, the internet and privacy and whatnot, the idea of just giving out someone's phone number publicly on the internet is just completely beyond the pale. Let's see. June 2000.
And we grew up with phone books.
Yeah. Yep. I remember looking through a phone book for numbers. It's a weird thing. World Magazine is an organization producing biblically sound daily coverage of global, national, and cultural events. So I can't actually seem to find that exact...
So it's a right-wing rag.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take World Magazine as a great source on this. Especially since every single time any of these things are investigated, we find out that it's not what the creationists are portraying them as. And, like, look, if you can actually find an example of someone being fired for, like, being a Christian or something out of, like, a public school or something, then let me know. If it's a private company that just doesn't want to employ Christians, I don't, like, whatever. Fine. I think that's weird and dumb, but, like... Actually, someone asked me that question once specifically. They were like, would you be okay if a business was going to exclude, like, members of X demographic? I was like, would I be okay with it in the sense that I think it's a good idea? No. Am I going to tell that company that, like, their pagan tours of Iceland has to have Christians on staff? No, they don't want that. They're doing their pagan tours specifically for and by pagans. We're doing the Norse paganism thing. It would be weird if they hired Christians, honestly. So, like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. Is it a tour I want to go on? Not particularly.
The Christians they hire are just cool like that?
Maybe. I doubt it. Grievous for $5 says, the phone numbers are just some of those 500 people are still alive. You can ask them of our age. Oh, right, from Paul.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to figure out what the context was there. Now I recognize it. Yep. Yeah. I have never called the Kent Hovind phone number that he's given out except for his own phone number, which apparently is still 855 Big Dino with whatever extension. I think it's 2. Yeah. Look, he's very public about that, so I am not in any way doxing him. He's just very open that 855 Big Dino. That's how I set up my debate with him. You remember that, Ben, because you were the one who was, like, encouraging me to do it. You and your brother, you wouldn't shut up about it. And then finally I did it.
And he didn't know what a dinosaur was.
No, he did not. Which, I didn't go into it thinking that that would be the case. But it became very clear very early on in the debate that it had to be the case. That he clearly didn't know what a dinosaur was.
He is a creationist, but he never told them he was. He just...
So he wasn't fired for being a creationist. Okay, cool. That's great. Oh, then why are we talking about it, Kent? Being fired while being a creationist is very different from being fired for being a creationist. They're not the same thing at all. Creationists get fired from jobs all the time, all over the place. It's like everyone else. Let's see. Normandy Foxtrot says, World Magazine is also very paywalled and hits you asking for a subscription and donations. Oof. My goodness. Go for one or the other, guys, right? Like, I do a donations model, right? You don't have to subscribe to anything I do and pay me money to see my output. You get it a little bit early. Well, in some cases, a lot early. If you are actually, donating money towards me. But, like, it's all available for free, or it will be. And that's fine. And on the other hand, if I just didn't want to make it publicly available and said that some stuff was only for people who pay, that would be subscriptions and that would be fine too. But, like, the idea of doing both is just weird. Let's see. Azaria says, Dapper, are you sure the phone number isn't for an unrelated Kent Hovind that makes coding tutorials? Because of the unrelated Dapper Dino that does that? I am sure, because I have called Kent Hovind's phone number for 855 Big Dino. I've done it, I think, 3 times. Once was just to see if it worked. because otherwise I wasn't going to waste my time. Then once to suggest the debate, and then I think there was a final phone call before the debate to make sure everything was set up and ready to go. I think those are the only times I've called. If I've called another time besides that, I certainly don't remember it. I've called Cindy Lincoln, Kent's third ex-wife, way more times than I've ever called Kent Hovind. But that's because I like Cindy overall, and I don't like Kent. So while I'm happy to talk to Cindy, I don't want to talk to Kent any more than the absolute bare minimum.
Showed up, hey, here's an error in our textbook. This is wrong, okay? At Baylor University in Waco, Texas.
Does he know it's Waco?
Texas. Yes, but also Texas is a very, like, right-wing state, minus the big cities.
Yeah, if there was
so
any place that would keep the creationist on, it's going to be places.
I mean, when was this video made?
Sometime after 2000. I don't know exactly.
So I'm guessing that he only knows about Waco because of what happened with David Koresh.
Probably. I mean, to be fair, that's probably why I know about it. I probably wouldn't have heard about Waco, Texas.
William Dembski, in April of 2000, was fired because he advocated intelligent design instead
Which is
of evolution.
just creationism with the serial numbers filed off.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's so much creationism with serial numbers filed off that, remember, when intelligent design was being challenged in court, they found that previous editions, draft editions to be fair, not published editions, of Pandas and People, intelligent design textbook, were identical to a previous explicitly creationist textbook, except that the words creationists had been replaced with intelligent design proponents, and creationism was replaced with intelligent design, and God and the creator were replaced with the designer. To the point that at one point, someone failed to do a proper find and replace, and the typo C design proponentsists was left in one of the early drafts of Pandas and Pandas and People, I think. Yeah. So yeah, it's so much just creationism in a trench coat that, like, anyone who ever tells you it's not is, if that person is themselves an intelligent design person, that person is lying to you. I'm comfortable saying that. If it's some rando off the street who's never heard about this stuff, then I'm sure that the filing off of the serial numbers will be enough to fool them, which is why they did it. But yeah, anyone who's actually involved in this.
I have to say this because as a big Filter fan, KF Fox in the chat says there's also that Filter song, Waco my airplane, Waco my...
You know, it's weird because you say you're a big Filter fan, but I don't think I've ever actually heard you listen to Filter.
I just think you weren't paying attention.
I mean, fair, but I hear you listen to a lot of Metallica.
Those aren't mutually exclusive.
It's true, but like I hear a lot of Metallica, but I don't hear a lot of
maybe you're immune to hearing Filter the way that you're immune to hearing Vishanti drop the F-bomb.
It is possible. It is possible. Although I catch her sometimes.
But not most of the time.
Not most of the time, that's true. No, you're right. She's sneaky.
Wily.
Yeah, she's like a coyote. Although, I don't know if you know, but coyotes can actually run much faster. Putting that up. Looney Tunes got it wrong.
The person who made Looney Tunes was a hater.
Let's see. The power of Nuh-uh for 200 Argentinian pesos says, to be frank, Waco, Texas does sound like a place with a lot of C design proponents. It's true. It does. You are not wrong.
He just said, you know, things we study are so complex, they must have been designed.
Okay, well, that's a stupid argument.
Yeah, that's a stupid argument.
Yeah. Nothing about complexity implies design. In fact, often quite the opposite. When you design something, you don't generally want it to be any more complex than it absolutely needs to. Yeah.
That's all it takes. He's out of there. Baylor. Southern Baptist school, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is Baylor. This is a Christian school.
I'm taking a drink for the idea that the Southern Baptists are kicking out someone for being a creationist. No, they're not. That is ridiculous.
Fired.
Actually, you know what? It's time for a quick intermission, which is good because I am running low on beer. So, Bent, we're gonna take a quick intermission. So, if you need to grab yourself another drink or anything, it's a good opportunity. And in the meantime, yeah, you guys can enjoy the intermission. First, there will be a teaser trailer for the next game of Star Trek Adventures, which is hopefully this. And then we'll listen to the musical stylings of Bent Hovind, my co-host. Congratulations, Bent.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, here we go.
Captain's Log, Stardate 60584.4. Starfleet Command just issued revised navigational data for the sector. The recent destruction of the Amargosa star has caused fluctuations to the ambient magnetic field, requiring minor adjustments to the warp engines and navigational systems. Engineering assures me that making these alterations to the ship's systems will have minimal impact on efficiency. More importantly, we recently received a message from Narendra that a runabout called the Susquehanna has gone missing in the Carnia Nebula, deep within the Shackleton Expanse. The Susquehanna was investigating an unusual alien signal that originated from the nebula when all contact was lost. We have been ordered to enter the nebula, find the runabout, and determine the origin and cause of the alien signal. Starfleet has also advised that Romulan and Ferengi ships have been sighted in the region, so we should exercise caution since they likely detected the alien signal as well. We've been carefully searching the nebula for several hours, but finding the missing runabout has turned out to be an excruciating process. Sensors are extremely limited due to the effect of the nebula, making the odds of finding the runabout slim. We have, however, located the source of the alien signal, a small dusty planet called Seku 6. We've set course for the Seku system in hopes of finding the missing runabout.
We are back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Bent. You have a good break? Arrow Dodger for 499 says, "Happy birthday to the only Kent that matters in this stream, me." Well, happy birthday, Kent. You're one of the good Kents. In fact, I only really know of two people named Kent. Actually looked into it, was like, where does that come from? It's literally just the name of the region in England. Yep, that's it. I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I think if I ever have a son, I'm gonna name him like Wyoming or something. Name after a region. Why not?
People name their kids Montana and Dakota.
Yeah. So if people can name their kids Montana or Dakota, I can name a kid Wyoming.
Shanti went to school with a guy named Britton.
That's weird. How do you know that?
You know, people talk sometimes when you're not around.
I guess that's true. It's just a weird detail for you to remember from her life.
I mean, you're just talking about weird names.
It's true, yeah. All right, so before we get further into this, I do want to say thank you to everyone who is helping support the channel, because this channel only survives as a result of the support from everyone who is helping with super chats, super stickers, super thanks, memberships, Patreon, all that stuff. It really is extremely helpful, and it's the only way that the channel can continue on the way it is going right now. Right? I'm not going to say that if you all dropped it, that there would never be any more, Dapper Dinosaur content, but I certainly wouldn't be able to spend, 40 to 70 hours a week working on Dapper Dinosaur content, but I normally do. So thank you so much. In fact, I'm hoping that after this, I might be able to get some audio recording done. We'll see how spent. When are you going to bed? All right. Well, whenever you do, that's probably when I'll do some recording. I don't want to have to ask you to be quiet for that. It's not fair. You have to
turn on some Metallica.
Well, that would definitely interrupt the recording if it was on just full blast. Which, why wouldn't it be? It's Metallica, right? So yeah, if you are someone who is not currently supporting the channel but you would like to, check out the Patreon. That's probably where it's the best to go. That's where I get to keep the most of what you're sending me. That starts at $1 a month. You can get a 15% discount if you pledge annually. The channel memberships also are very cool. They get you access to the cool sticker next to your name. Your name turns green. You get one extra chat a month that gets highlighted like a super chat, even though it's a membership milestone chat. Both of them give you early access to my scripted videos, which right now I'm pretty consistently about 5 months ahead on those. Sometimes it gets out to 6, but it then kind of tends to fall back towards 5. But yeah, pretty consistently about 5 months out. So if you get something now, it won't be available to the public for like a good 20 weeks or something. So yeah, you got plenty of time to watch it. Those also give you access to my Discord server, which while it's not drama free, I think it's very reasonably low drama and generally pretty supportive. So yeah, hang out there. We got lots of different rooms in there. We've got rooms for TTRPG play, for TTRPG off topic, for memes, for Star Trek, for Warhammer, for Power Rangers. We've got a venting and heavy stuff channel for people who want to vent to talk about heavy stuff, but also while keeping it segregated. The people who don't want to hear about that, or maybe can't handle that right now because they're already dealing with enough, don't have to deal with it. So, it's a pretty cool place. And Josh McGee has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So thank you very much. I am going to take 5 drinks while Bent tells us about how you can avoid getting Cheeto dust all over your keyboard if you use chopsticks.
That's true. There's a very famous actor who was caught eating Cheetos, spicy Cheetos, with chopsticks, and it turns out it's a really smart way to avoid getting Cheeto dust all over your hands.
It's how I eat Cheetos. I mean, if I'm eating Cheetos, which I don't do a lot, but of the crunchy snacks that I buy, it's not like super infrequent. Yeah, I eat them with chopsticks because I'm going to be there at my computer, like watching a movie or something. Cheetos. I don't want to get Cheeto dust on my keyboard or mouse. Chopsticks.
Or be constantly having to lick it off your fingers before you type something.
Right. Because I also don't want to get my spit all over my keyboard either. Actually, I was thinking about it. Today I made some pan-seared salmon, and I ate it with a fork and knife. And I was thinking wow, this is the first time in a while I've used something other than chopsticks to actually eat my food. I'm using chopsticks all the time. Use it for rice, use it for noodles. Not even always East Asian noodles. Like, I don't care. You need spaghetti with chopsticks. It's fine. It works fine. Yeah, chopsticks, I think, are overall generally superior to fork and knife. Not for all applications. There are exceptions, but overall, I do think that they're better.
So you can eat just about anything with chopsticks if you're not a coward.
It's hard to eat soup, which is one of the reasons why spoons are still a thing at many tables in places where chopsticks are just the typical utensil.
You can also just pick the bowl up and sip the soup.
Yeah, you can. Okay, it was
artifacting,
but like that looked like there was just a giant ball of snot hanging out of his nose. I was not ready. Jeez. Okay. Whew. Just gonna take it. I'm gonna take a drink to recover from that. I don't know what drink trigger that is, but I'm doing it. Because, oh boy, was I not ready for the giant ball of snot on Kent's nose that wasn't really there. Pillowpunk for $2 says, I use chopsticks for basically all snacks. Yeah, it's a really good idea overall. Chopsticks are great. You know, when I went to South Korea with my dad, the entire time he was there, he could not ever figure out chopsticks. Like, he just couldn't. It got to the point that at one point...
What about the little baby ones that have the like rubber band and the stuff at the end?
I don't know if you ever... I don't know if you ever tried those. But like... Yeah, the whole time I was there, he would always ask for a fork and knife, and there were definitely dishes where he struggled. Like at one point we got this roast duck, and it was like roasted with a lot of stuffing, and it was so tender that it would just like fall apart. And so he would try to stab it with his fork, and it would just kind of like slide off the fork and fall apart into little strands of meat. And it's because, you know, you can have it be that tender if you're grabbing it with chopsticks. It's not going to break the meat apart. And so he was just struggling the whole time to eat that duck. And there's me just like, this is great. And like, he was there on a business trips, and I was like in high school at the time. So all of his coworkers were like, why is your son so good at chopsticks? Obviously, given that you're not.
Why didn't he use the fork to scoop up the duck?
I never said that my dad was particularly great at using a fork either. I don't know. My dad is a very confusing individual every once in a while. Although I stopped it in any way pretending that I don't get, chemically altered occasionally when my dad showed up to hang out at the resort that they were staying at here in Arizona, and he was super high. And every once in a while, my mom is still like, you shouldn't tell me things like that. I'm like, you showed up to hang out, and Dad was super high. I no longer have any reason to censor any of that stuff for you, Mom. Nope. Once your husband is talking about, like, his favorite dispensary and, like, his favorite brands of THC gummies, like, nope. We're done pretending on that point.
Forrest Mims was a science writer for 20 years.
That is a name. Forrest Mims. Mems?
Mimsy.
Right? That's what I'm thinking of, too. What? Okay. He was denied a job for Scientific American because he was a creationist in 1990.
Look at the article headline. Hire a creationist, a non-believer in Darwin, not at a proud science journal.
Scientific American is not, by the way. What is the newspaper this is in? It says National, but I can't read the rest of it. It's just blurry.
It's too small for me to see.
Oh, there's a great quote. I even told them I could be their token Christian.
The citation is New York Times, but...
Oh, okay. It probably is. I love that quote there. I even told them I could be their token Christian. Like Scientific American has no Christians on staff. I don't believe this.
The thing is, if you want to publish in a reputable journal and overturn Darwin, you're welcome to do that as long as you have the proper methodology and you show the evidence.
Yeah.
Nobody's done that.
Nope.
So, cope.
Yeah, as Templar Ward says, X to doubt. Jillian Wren says, you'll be shocked to learn he doesn't have a science. Completely surprising. Wait, where did Bent go? Ben just leave and I just wasn't looking? Goodness. I thought Bent had abandoned me. Welcome back, Bent.
Published articles in National Geographic, in Science Digest, the American Journal of Physics. 60 magazines and newspapers published his articles.
Okay. That's great. Great for him. That's evidence of, one, that creationists can and do get published, because they do. And also, two, that, like Ken said last time, that you don't have to have any of these fancy degrees to publish in an actual, real, like, journal. You just don't. It helps, because then you know what to do. But yeah, journals are not gate-kept at the level of degree holding. Like, they just aren't.
Also, what does Darwin have to do with physics?
Yeah, looks like nothing, right? This looks like a guy who's able to publish in, like, physics papers, because has some insight into physics and some physics ability, but also has wackadoo beliefs about biology and the history of Earth or whatnot. And, which, I mean, that happens, right? Like, look at Nobel disease. Nobel disease is the well-known phenomenon that people who get Nobel Prizes in one field then go and become nut jobs in some other unrelated field, thereby just ruining their reputation in the scientific community. But that's the thing. They always go to some other field that they don't actually know about. You don't normally get someone who gets, like, the Nobel Prize in physics, who then starts going on about electric universe theory, right? They then go on to talk about, like, I don't know, like race realism or like vaccine denial or something like that, right? That's what they do.
He was denied a job as a writer for Scientific American because he was a creationist. Subject.
I mean, well, one, I don't believe that. Also, I think that would be pretty fair, right? Like, if you were going to run, like, I don't know, a space magazine, a magazine all about astronomy and, like, space exploration and whatnot, and someone wanted to be a writer for you, and it turns out they were a flat earther, would you hire them? I wouldn't. Would you, Bent?
Or a geocentrist?
Yeah, I wouldn't hire Robertson Jenis to write for my space magazine. Like, or Nathan Oakley. Like, no. They're just going to write nonsense. So, like, while I don't think this actually happened, it should happen. If that should be the stance of, like, Scientific American, is that no, we're not going to hire creationists or flat earthers or vaccine deniers or viruses aren't real people or electric universe people or you can actually speak to your plants telepathically people. Or crystals are magic. Homeopathy. Yeah, these are all things that should disqualify you from writing for Scientific American. So, actually, it's basically true for once. Oh, hey, good. I am absolutely okay with that. Scientific American should absolutely not hire creation. Now, they shouldn't discriminate against Christians, because those two things aren't the same thing. And in fact, I would be shocked if Scientific American has never had a Christian writer on. It would be one of the least likely things that I've ever heard of, if that were actually the case. I am extremely confident that Scientific American has had more than one Christian author on staff, and probably has at least one right now.
He would write on were not even involving creation or evolution.
Yeah, I still wouldn't hire a flat earther to talk about chemistry, Kent. Even though chemistry usually doesn't come up in flat earth stuff. I'm sorry, but, like, if you want to get hired by a private science magazine, probably can't be a science denier.
But because he believed in creation, he couldn't even write on other topics.
Well, no, he could. He just couldn't get them published in Scientific American as an on-staff writer. Because, I don't know if you know this, but Ben, you probably know this, but did you know that you can actually write things and then have other people read them while they're not published in Scientific American? Like, you can have a blog or something.
I did know that.
In fact, not all publications are from Scientific American. There are other companies, books, magazines, newspapers, none of which are Scientific American. So he was not prevented from writing about other things.
Also, what does this prove? Does this prove that evolution isn't a fact? Because some people got discriminated against or fired from their job?
No, it does not, actually. All it proves is that when you have weird pseudoscientific beliefs, sometimes some people will not want you associated with their science-promoting organization. Right? It's like, look, I wouldn't hire a young Earth creationist as an editor if I were going to hire an editor. Right now, I'm happy editing my own videos, but that might not always be the case. But if I do hire one, it's not going to be a young Earth creationist. Not because a young Earth creationist couldn't edit it, but because I don't think that will be a good fit for me, for my channel. Now, if I had a channel that was just like, I don't know, like video game Let's Plays, and I wanted someone to edit down my streams to like bite-sized chunks for like shorts or something, fine, that guy can be a creationist. But that's not my channel. So that's not what I'm going to do.
Then the scientists turn around and say, well, how many creationists are writing for major magazines?
No, I don't say that. Bent, have you ever said that? Now, what I do say is they can't get published because their work is trash when it's about creationism. And that's true. But I have never said to anyone, you know what would make me believe in young Earth creationism is if more of them wrote for Scientific American or National Geographic. That's never been any of the criteria I've ever thought of.
Well,
Yeah,
duh.
I mean, plus when these guys write for journals, they do it outside their field. It's like what's the creationist that published something in a math journal, and the math was sound, but it was trying to like talk about genetics, and it's not a genetics journal, so what are you
Oh,
doing?
yeah. Oh, no, you're talking about, who was that? Goodness, now I'm trying to think. It might have been, I think it was Basner and Sanford. I think that was what it is. The paper that Dan Cardinal and Zach Hancock tried to publish while abbreviating the papers to just BS. So their original draft of the paper that they published as a response to the Basner-Sanford paper included like, the next BS claim, it would just be B and S capital, and the editor was like, nah, you gotta tone that down. And I was like, no, I want to read the
Well,
draft that has
that
the
would be
BS.
really funny.
Oh yeah, it'd be hilarious. But no, they had to change it to like B ampersand S. So now it's a B and S, which is lame. Lame.
Cowards.
I know. But to be fair, not Zach or Dan the cowards. Editor, the coward in this. So Zach and Dan, good job. Which, by the way, as far as I can tell, creationists haven't even attempted to push back on that paper, which basically shows that Basner and Sanford, their math, while arithmetically their math is fine, right? Like they didn't make any like carry the one errors. It doesn't in any way apply to anything to do with genetics. They were doing some other thing.
Which is why they didn't publish it in a genetics journal.
Yep. Yep. It turns out you can play all sorts of games with math that are mathematically sound and don't correlate to the thing you want them to.
Yeah. How many capitalists are teaching in Soviet Union? You know, it's the same thing.
Kids, you made this after 2000. There was no Soviet Union.
Yeah, the Soviet Union collapsed in the 80s.
Like what? I'm taking a drink for Kent
They're
Hovind still.
firmly capitalist and have been.
Like, imagine it being 2000 and you're still complaining about the Soviet Union. The thing that hasn't existed for over a decade.
Yeah, he's a creationist. They're perpetually like 50 to 70 years behind everything else. So.
It's actually kind of surprising that Ken Ham isn't still complaining about the communists in the Soviet Union. He's... Oh well.
No difference whatsoever. Rod LeVake in Faribault, Minnesota, was reassigned to a different position because he even raised doubts about Darwin's theory.
Yeah, if you're... My goodness. That's the best case scenario. If you're going to be like a biology teacher and then start to teach things that are obviously and demonstrably wrong about that science, and they're not going to fire you, they should reassign you. That's better than you should be able to hope for. Unfinished Sock says, don't practice fraud as a religion. Like and share the stream instead. Yeah, that's true. It might be that grift is Kent Hovind's actual religion. Like that, it would not shock me to find out that he is insincere in his Christianity and is instead just in it for the grift. And he's been in that particular grift for so long, he doesn't feel like he can change lanes. But then again, it also wouldn't surprise me if he's completely sincere in his Christianity.
I think that he's sincere and that his flavor of Christianity is just real shitty.
Oh, I mean, it is, regardless of his sincerity. So yeah, I think that is more likely. But if it were to come out that, yeah, he was actually just a grifter, and Christianity was just a convenient place for him to grift, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't be the first time either. Because it turns out that, yeah, there's a lot of room for grifting in Christianity.
Don't even make the kids question this. If you do, you're not qualified to be a biology teacher. Get that guy out of biology class.
Correct. Yep. Just like if you were teaching geography and you were a flat earther, you would not be qualified to teach that class. You'd be transferred to a different section. Yep. That is entirely appropriate.
Somewhere else. The guy that wrote the book that we carry.
Oh, hey, I'm going to call this as a confirmed prediction of Pandas and People. Take a drink.
See design proponentsists.
Now, if he talks about this and there hasn't, like I think it was the Kitzmiller v. Dover case, hasn't actually, he doesn't seem to be aware of it concluding, then that can put us like a little bracket. Because I think that was like, what, 2000... Let's find it. I'm not going to just try to guess. I have the internet in front of me. Kitzmiller v. Dover. Let's see. Like it was 2005. Okay. So if Kent is talking about this and it's completed, like he knows that there's been a decision that's been put forth and whatnot, then we know this was recorded after 2005. Now, I think he went to prison in 2009, right? Let's see, Kent Hovind prison. No, 2007. Okay. So yeah, if he knows about the Kitzmiller v. Dover decision, that really narrows it down, because it narrows it down to a 2-year window between 2005 and 2007. Okay. Man, this is exciting. This is probably the closest we've ever been able to actually date one of these videos.
Let's go.
Pandas and People. Oh, excuse me. One of the authors of that book was a major biology teacher for years at Sanford or one of the San Francisco colleges.
And it says it on your slide.
It says on the slide.
Do you not read your own slides? I'm taking a drink. Like, I can't remember. It's on my slide, though. San Francisco State University, by the way. My goodness.
When he got saved, he used to write textbooks about evolution. Textbooks that people would use in schools about evolution. When he got saved and became a creationist...
Once again, we have someone who converts first and then later on.
You convert first and then become a young Earth creationist. You never follow the evidence to being a young Earth creationist and then convert to Christianity. Nobody does that.
Like, if there were actual evidence for creationism, you would expect there would be some people who were like, I think the Earth is probably young and there was a special creation of different groups of organisms, because that's where the evidence seems to lead. And then you would stumble upon the existence of various forms of Christianity that are teaching that, and you'd be like, oh, look, this religion was teaching that all along. I guess that's going to be my religion now. That's not a path that people take. Aerodoctor says, is this VHS or High 8 or digital, or I don't actually know. Like, there was just digital artifacts on it, so I think it's digital in some way.
Could it be a digital rip of a VHS?
Yeah, that's the other thing, is it could also be that. Well, like, when did VHS stop being a popular video form? I think it was in the early 2000s, wasn't it?
Early 2000s.
So yeah, it's still in the range where, like, it being a VHS is somewhat reasonable. Although, as far as I know, Kent is still trying to hawk VHS tape. What do I know?
They tried to fire him. But because he had 20 years, he was tenured professor, they couldn't fire him, so they reassigned him as a lab assistant.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. If you're going to teach your students lies, you shouldn't be allowed to teach those classes. See, all of this is predicated on the fact, or on the idea, I should say, that creationism is actually a reasonable thing to believe and teach. But it isn't. Right? Like, these aren't people who were fired because they have a slightly different take on like ancient Roman monetary policy and its effect on inflation in the Roman Empire leading up to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. That's not what's going on here, because that's a thing you could reasonably disagree about. This is someone who's like, hey, what if I taught my chemistry class that water actually wasn't composed of an oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms combined together? What if I just taught them it was not that? No, you shouldn't be teaching chemistry if you're going to do that. That's not acceptable. Let's see. VHS only has 240 lines of resolution, so Pixel peep to see what the resolution is. So I think I downloaded this at 360, but part of the problem is it could actually be a 240 video that was upscaled to 360 in a software. Because, I can drop a 240 resolution video into my video editor and set it to just output at 1080 if I want to. It'll look like crap and it won't actually be in 1080 in any meaningful sense, but like, it'll be 1080.
Usually college juniors and seniors are the lab assistants. Here, go wash these test tubes, clean this mess up. The guy had written books about evolution, but once he became a creationist, he's out the door. Okay, you can no longer be a scientist if you don't believe in evolution.
That's actually not what they said. Being transferred from being a professor teaching classes to being someone who's still making a professor salary, but who's being a lab assistant and not allowed to teach classes, isn't the same as not being a scientist, because guess what? Lab assistants can write papers. They can do studies. They can get published. That makes them scientists if they do that. Which is a point Kent had made earlier himself, that you don't need a degree to be a scientist. You don't need to have a particular job to be a scientist. You just have to do the science. And Kent was right about that. It's one of the few times when I can wholeheartedly say, yes, Kent is right about this. And now here he is, just contradicting that. Yeah, as the real fearmonger points out, he's functionally illiterate. Probably it does contribute to that.
Logic that we have to face. John?
Okay, let's see.
He's so pressed.
Yes.
He's so oppressed. He's the minority that's been oppressed for the last 17 centuries. So you should feel bad for him.
Yeah. Although I wonder, does Kent actually is he one of the Baptists who thinks that Baptists have always existed, but like in hiding? Because that's a thing that some Baptists believe. Also,
I don't know if the IF was an independent fundamentalist, whatever Baptist. They're the same as the primitive Baptists.
Well, they're not the same, but they might have similar beliefs about like the origin of Baptists as a whole. But also, someone is saying it's too sharp for VHS. I have put this through sharpening pass before it gets from my media player to OBS. So that might just be that I've sharpened the video manually. There's also a color correction because like it's super low contrast, and so I upped the contrast and sharpened it. So what you're seeing is not what I'm seeing on my media viewer, or what Bent is seeing when I'm screen sharing with him. Sorry, Bent, you're getting the inferior viewing experience of this horrible quality video.
I'm crushed.
I know.
Chapter 7. Shall Christ come out of Galilee? They're arguing about the wrong thing. So when they say, don't all scientists believe in evolution? I'm sorry, they're arguing the wrong subject.
That's the thing, though. To some degree, yeah, it's true that the majority doesn't determine what truth is, but what the evidence points to is what generally determines the majority opinion in science. So it's actually not that unreasonable to, as a layperson, use the consensus as a proxy for where the evidence is in science. And it is valid to say...
He's doing it backwards. He's trying to say that they're saying it's true because the majority believe it. It's like, no. The majority believe it because the evidence leads that way.
And when someone says, why aren't there more scientists who are creationists? What they're saying is...
Because the evidence doesn't lean that way.
Right. There isn't enough evidence to convince many of them. And it is the case that you can simply round off to say that there are no creationist scientists. Because the proportion of them is so small that you would not consider it in any way significant in most contexts. Like, just remember Project Steve. We talked about it, I think we talked about it on Saturday with Vishanti and... no, I guess it was just Kip. because Vishanti couldn't be there. Ugh, what a jerk. Can you
Don't
believe
get
that, Ben?
sick.
No. Everyone send Vishanti some well wishes so that maybe she can recover and be on next Saturday. Because, you know, we like Vishanti. We like it when she's...
I'm sure she would also like money to pay for rent.
Well, she does have a Patreon.
Yep.
Check
And a
out...
PayPal.
And a PayPal. Yeah. Are those both on her channel page? I don't remember.
Well, if the PayPal's not, I'm sure someone can post a link to it.
Okay. Yeah. So, hey, support our friend Vishanti. She's having a rough time. In fact, probably rougher than Bent, because Bent recently got a raise.
Hey.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I'm increasing the value of Bent Gets Free Pizza, because now he can afford pizza. So he doesn't get it free quite as much. Because to a large extent, it was like, oh, you know, like the only way Bent's going to get pizza. And congratulations on that raise, by
About time.
It really is. It took months. But hey, get the back pay.
That's also nice.
Of course, it disappeared immediately into repairs for various things, so, you know.
The average person can see
Being
the
alive
truth.
is expensive.
Yeah.
Many of the people, therefore, said, when they heard this saying, said, of a truth, this is the prophet. Others said, this is the Christ. But some said, shall Christ come
Why are we talking about this? I don't get it.
out of Galilee? See, the Pharisees didn't believe in him, but the common person could see.
Are you sure about that? Because according to the New Testament, a number of people who were followers of Jesus would have been classified as Pharisees. Right? Like, there were a lot of commonalities between what Jesus was preaching and general Pharisaical thought, including things like the resurrection and stuff like that. So, like, I don't actually think it's fair to say that the Pharisees as a whole group just didn't believe Jesus. Because it seems like he mostly pulled followers from either Pharisees or disciples of Pharisees. So, yeah.
The average ordinary person...
In fact, actually, I believe at one point in, like, Acts, Paul objects and says in order to try to get himself out of trouble, to be fair, but says that he's a Pharisee who's being oppressed for being a Pharisee. Which I think means that at least that was what he would call himself before he started believing in Jesus, and probably still afterwards. I don't think he
Did call himself that. He said he was a Pharisee of Pharisees, and then he even dropped his teacher's name.
Yeah.
Maliel.
So, yeah. People who are talking about first century, things surrounding the Jesus movement as it was then, and first century Judaism, please remember that those things were not separate things, really, and that many of the things that become very important in Christianity started in pre-Christian Pharisaical tradition. So,
And the New Testament is not an accurate portrayal of Pharisees at all.
with half a brain and normal intelligence can see evolution is not true. It can't happen.
okay, then why are all the people with above average intelligence and a whole brain seemingly convinced otherwise? You still need to describe why it is that it's so unconvincing to all the smart.
But the scientists get together and say, oh, well, all scientists believe in it, and if you don't believe in it, you're going to be fired, by the way. You know,
Actually, that usually doesn't happen.
go get them evolution, you know. That's what's going on. Okay.
No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
Some of them would have taken him, but no man laid hands on him. Same thing
I'm just going to
today.
drink because this is a stupid
There
thing
are
to talk
some
about.
people who
It's
teach
completely
evolution and believe
meaningless.
in evolution that would love to have anybody that doesn't believe it. They hate people like me.
No, that's projection.
To a large extent, yes. Although I do actually think that Kent deserves a lot of hate. But mostly for the things like, all of the abuse. And the being that he runs a cult compound. Where he takes advantage of poor and, like, people coming out of prison. That's one of the things that really bugs me the most, right? Like, the American prison system, as I'm sure I don't have to tell you, Ben, is absolute garbage. It's one of the worst things in these here former United States. It has an absurdly high recidivism rate. It does nothing, well, not nothing, but it does very little to actually rehabilitate people so they don't go on to reoffend. It, in many cases, would be considered to be like just a human rights violation that goes on in many prisons. And when you come out of prison, it is extremely difficult to get a job or housing. Extremely difficult. And so Kent preys on people who are getting out of prison. He says, oh, hey, come work for me on my dinosaur adventure land, and we'll give you housing and food for free. And so then he traps them there, basically, because where else are they going to go? Now, not only are they out of prison with a prison record, but now they also have a big old gap on their resume that just says, like, what, worked at cult compound for free? What? That doesn't show much. And so now he has them trapped where they're going to be homeless and jobless if he kicks them out. But you don't think that gives him undue influence over people? It absolutely does. And when he gets people to work for him who aren't prisoners, he routinely convinces them to do things like sell all their assets and donate all that money to the ministry because this is their forever home. They're never going to have to move out, until he kicks them out, which he routinely does, leaving them with nothing.
Predators.
Oh, yeah. Actual convicted predators of children. And one of them, he gave access to a whole house off the actual campus of Dinosaur Adventureland and provided both of them one mattress on the floor to sleep on. And that kid, unsurprisingly, says that he was indeed assaulted on that night that they stayed in that house.
Predator's gonna pred.
Mm-hmm. So, Kent, that's why I hate you. That's why you should be hated. I care a whole lot less about you being wrong about the age of the Earth than I do about the actual humans whose lives you've destroyed. I care a lot more about that. I care a lot more about your violence towards Cindy Lincoln that you've been convicted of, Kent. Yeah. Like, I dislike Kent a whole lot more than I dislike, say, Randy Galuzza or Ken Ham, although Ken Ham has been abusive to his employees, but not to nearly the same degree. I don't know of anyone who's homeless because of Ken Ham. Not something I can say of Kent Hovind.
Hey, I will say this. At least he's not Gunter Beckley.
That's true. Kent so far has not murdered anyone, which is not something we can say of Gunter Beckley. Rest in piss.
Get hate mail all the time. It's hilarious to read some of the stuff. Nearly always unsigned.
Oh, no.
Oh, boo. Get over it. Hate mail comes with being a public figure. That's just what it is. If you're a public figure, some people are going to decide they don't like you, whether for good or bad reasons, and some people are going to send you hate mail. You just deal with it. I get hateful messages every once in a while, too, and I'm far less famous than Kent Hovind. In fact, Ben, I think on your channel, you've gotten some hate comments here and there.
So rare.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been like, what, 4 years since you posted to your channel?
That helps.
Yeah. But your video about Kent Hovind, where you reacted to him talking about the death of a child on his property, that got some hate comments on it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, who cares, right?
One guy wrote a letter to some great preacher years ago. Just one word on the letter. Fool!
Story didn't happen.
Sent it to the preacher. The preacher got up that night in front of
didn't happen.
Yeah, well, I'm going to let him get a little bit further to see, but I'm pretty sure it didn't happen. We'll probably have to take
Billy Sunday or something. He got up in front of this crowd of 10 or 15,000 people and said, well, I get letters all the time that are anonymous, but I finally got one that he signed his name but forgot to write the letter.
Okay, so that was just a
didn't
joke that didn't land, and a story that didn't happen. Let's take 2 drinks. I'm thirsty too. Which could be solved with a few more gift members.
The Pharisees said, "Why have you not brought him? Why didn't you bring him to us?" Yeah, the professors send their students to do the dirty work.
What? I
The
don't
students
understand
don't
why.
have the ability to do any of these things.
Oh. I also really don't understand why we're talking about the Gospel of John in this context. I mean, I get it. Kent's a Christian, so he's going to try to connect anything he can to the Bible, but, like, it just doesn't apply. No one is coming to crucify these creationists. Most of them aren't even being fired for being creationists. They're being fired for, like, doing horrible, unethical things. But, like, getting fired from your job at a college isn't the same thing as getting crucified.
Hey, you know what students are doing to their teachers? Writing essays that don't fulfill the assignment, have no citations, and are just opinions about stuff. And then they get upset that they made a 0 because they didn't do the assignment. So they complain to their right-wing buddies, and then the university suspends the teacher and their assistant.
That's a real thing that's happened. I'm going to take a drink because Pegajace, the C design proponentist, has a gifted membership. Thank you. YouTube made it harder to do the name jokes, but it's not impossible.
They didn't go themselves. And scientists today and evolutionists.
That's a weird complaint to me because, like, in the story, right, the people who are trying to get Jesus arrested have temple guard that are supposed to be able to do things like this. Like, that's their job, right? Like, you don't see the mayor of a city going out and arresting people. That's what his police force is. So Kent's saying, like,
Also,
why did they go get him himself? Because that wasn't their job.
Hey, Deborah, of all of the sects that were running the temple service at that time, which one was it?
It was certainly not the Pharisees. That would be the Sadducees. Although, that's probably what is meant by the chief priest. So.
And do you know that those sects got along, or were they opposed to one another?
They generally did not get along very well. Although, I don't think that meant that they were always, in every instance, opposed to each other about every question. That would be surprising to me.
So, what authority did the Pharisees have if the Sadducees were the ones running the temple service?
Basically, their authority was sort of limited to moral authority among the general populace, which is a soft form of power, but it is power.
It's weird that, the Sadducees would be in charge of the temple service, and then somehow the Pharisees are the ones that dominate the Sanhedrin. That seems weird.
Yeah, that is not a thing that would be the case.
That sounds not accurate historically, but what do I know?
The Pharisees definitely were not dominant in this. Yeah.
Today will try to use the law to silence creationists. They'll try to pass a law.
That's what you do, Kent.
Yeah, imagine being the guy who's supporting every censorious right-wing policy, or every policy that's going to get into people's bedrooms or whatever, and be like, they're trying to silence me, when what they're actually doing is saying, you can't teach non-science in science classrooms that are publicly funded. That's not allowed. Because it shouldn't be allowed. If the government is going to provide science instruction, you should be able to go there and be well assured that what you're getting is actually science.
Or try to twist the law to say you can't talk about creation in schools.
That's not twisting anything. That's just the First Amendment, Kent. Let's take a drink for Kent not knowing about the First Amendment. That's pretty dumb.
Well, it applies to him, but no one else.
Oh, of course, I forgot. Wow, a whole bunch of people are getting bingo. I'm trying to see who the first might have been.
It's way back.
Atomic Squirrel got one at 7:43 our time. Becca Justiniano got one at 7:40 our time. Not seeing... Oh, wait. Becca Justiniano at 7:26 our time. That might be the earliest one that I'm seeing. Yeah, it looks like Becca Justiniano was our first bingo. So congratulations, Becca.
Rather than just deal with the subject, if evolution is so true, prove it to us, and we'll shut up.
Yeah, We've done that,
Yeah.
and you still don't believe it, so shut up.
If you want an example of that happening in real time, I would suggest watching a few of what is it, Rebecca Bread of Life's videos on her. What's her creations and focus channel called? I don't remember what it is right now, but like, it's not that hard to find. Where she has had this series of like, bring your evidence for evolution, and numerous people have brought her just so much evidence for evolution, and she just does a young Earth creationist reset during each episode to pretend that just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, did that prove evolution? Well, I mean, generally we don't prove things in science. That's not how science works. But like, she's been presented with overwhelming evidence for evolution, and her response is just like, nuh-uh.
Nah.
Yeah.
Like, we know that a crime occurred and that something was stolen, and we found someone with the stolen object in their hand running away from the scene of the crime, and their footprints like tracked mud away from the scene of the crime, and they left a jacket there with their name on it, but I don't think they did it.
Yeah, all coincidence.
That's what she's doing.
Yep. She did it very specifically when she was talking to me and Jackson, and she was like, yeah, but where's the evidence that a single-cell organism can become multicellular? We were like, here are 2 papers in which that very thing was observed in real time. And then later on,
Yeah,
she
but
was
where's
like,
the evidence?
literally, later on, she asked that question. Like, but I don't, and she was like, well, yeah, we were like, well, we showed you that. She was like, I don't think those count. So, what?
It's because she doesn't want them to count.
Yeah. All right. So the power of Na'a for 200 Argentinian pesos is sending something in a language that I am not sure what it is. So I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But like, AIG, I don't know what the dot under the M is supposed to be indicating. Bisa Krmganu. That's the. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's an AIG or a bag of dicks. So like, we'll take a drink. But like, you got me on what language that actually is. So
Some
Old
linguist.
Khotanese, an Iranian language from China spoken around the same place as Tokharian. Yeah, okay, I was never gonna get that. Jeez. Take a drink, though. Old Khotanese. Never even heard of it.
Just prove it. Show us the evidence.
You won't
We
care.
do.
Yeah.
And then you just go, nuh-uh.
I've watched Kent receive the evidence to his face multiple times. He just doesn't care.
And then just go, nuh-uh.
In fact, I've heard him then go on to continue to say things that he knows to have been, or he's been shown to be false in previous debates. He does not care. He is immune to evidence. Now, that's not true of every young Earth creationist, and I know this because both me and Bent were young Earth creationists, right? Yep. In fact, I think several other of my co-hosts were young Earth creationists. I don't remember if Maddie was, but I know Vishanti was.
We did an episode.
Yep, we did.
Believing in Earth creationism.
Yep. That was a fun one. She was not a flake.
Nope.
I mean, I didn't expect her anyway. Let's see. Erica is a former young Earth creationist. That's a given, in case it wasn't obvious which Erica I'm talking about. So, like, yeah, there's a lot of former young Earth creationists.
You wanted to know if Kip was a young Earth creationist, so Vishanti asked him and tells you to check your DMs.
I do not have a DM from him, but okay.
Not from Kip directly, but from Vishanti, who asked because you wanted her to ask Kip.
Okay. All right. I'll thank Vishanti later, and I will check that out. Let's see.
Don't leave the audience hanging.
Briefly, my first year of Bible college. Oh, okay, so he was for a little while. Interesting.
Have any of the...
Should get him on an episode of Leaving Young Earth Creationism.
Yeah, revive the series for one episode.
Mm-hmm. It's a special.
Ah, like a reunion episode? Except there's not a reunion because it's just me.
Yeah, I mean, like, South Park did a pandemic special.
That's true.
Deceived, translated means, are you stupid? Have any of the rulers or the Pharisees believed on him? In other words, hey, all scientists believe it, therefore it must be true.
No. Again, we're getting the causality backwards. Scientists tend to believe things because there is evidence. When they don't believe something, that usually means that there isn't evidence for that claim. Which means that if you do not have the time or the know-how, check up on what science is doing, you can use as a reasonable proxy for what has evidence the scientific consensus.
Hey, Mark Reed Atheism and their viewers just joined.
You know, Mark Reed recently did a review of my debate with Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, and it was a lot of fun to watch that debate review. Okay. Do you remember when I debated him?
Not offhand.
He was the one who I decided to just abandon the globe and go flat Earth, but I did South Pole centered flat Earth, and I was basically my argument was like, hey, look, this model of flat Earth is way better at explaining what Flat Earth Aussie Jesus sees in the sky. So I think he should switch to this version. And so
that's right. He got really mad.
He got really mad because everything he could try to say to debunk the South Pole centered flat Earth model is equally true of the North Pole centered model. So like, what are you gonna do? And on top of that, I did it specifically because he's in the Southern Hemisphere. So my flat Earth model is a better representation of his reality.
You're better, troll. Also, like, because there's so many new people coming into the chat for Mark Reed, like, I can't maintain this anymore. Like, it is really difficult to try to do a Bent Hovind impression because he's so, like...
What do you mean?
Deadpan.
Why would you impersonate yourself?
Schizo, I guess.
That's weird. I never do a Dapper impression. I'm just Dapper.
I mean, but you sometimes put on a human suit, so people are used to seeing you in different forms.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit weird when you say that you're trying to do an impersonation of yourself. Because you are, in fact, Bent Hovind.
Oh, you know, it's really cool how I grew my hair out really fast in just a few days. Could be a wig, though.
Well, you also shaved, which is not something I was expecting.
Also very weird.
Yeah. You don't shave very much.
John 7:49 says, "But this people who knoweth not the law are cursed." What are they trying to imply by that? You're stupid. We're smart. Can you read that into that pretty easily?
Okay, Kent. I need you to understand that complaining that other people are smart and are pointing it out to you doesn't really work as a valid complaint.
That makes him
if you're
not
demonstrably
smart.
Yeah, if you're demonstrably not smart, right? It's the same reason that everyone just laughs when flat earthers are like, "Why doesn't anyone take me seriously? I'm a smart guy." No, you're not. You know how I know? Because you fell for flat Earth. It's the same deal. You're not very smart. You know how I know? Because you fell for young Earth creationism while having all of the resources to figure out that was dumb and being told why it's dumb to your face repeatedly for decades. That's stupid. Sorry.
We're smart, you're dumb. I get this attitude all the time when I do debates.
The thing is, you can learn stuff. That's a thing you can do.
I'm taking a drink. Imagine that he gets the attitude of people thinking they're smarter than him at debates when he goes on and says the most brain-dead bullshit you can imagine. Wow. I wonder why that is, Kent. Jeez.
Like,
oh, hey, we're coming up on time.
That's what I was saying, like, since we're almost done.
Yeah. All right. So, Bent, do you have anything coming up that you want to tell people about?
No, just support the Patreon and...
Your Patreon or Vishanti's Patreon? Both.
I mean, both Patreons.
Okay.
Both wish lists. It is the season for giving, if you can.
It is. In fact, also, I have a Patreon and a wish list. I actually even have special rice on there that apparently is roasted and caffeinated. So if you want to get me special caffeinated rice instead of the 15-pound bags of rice that I otherwise sometimes get, you could feel free to do that. So yeah, let's see what's coming up. We'll have to be fast. So we're not doing Godzilla tonight because Bent, you are very, very tired. You want to get to bed. I get that.
Yeah.
But let's see. On Thursday, the Next episode of the Creationist World Tomorrow thing is coming out. Evolutionists don't want you to know these weird tricks. So that will be on Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Then on Friday, over on Top Hats Off, at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, the plan is to do Star Trek Adventures. Hopefully everyone will show up, or at least announce that they're not showing up in time for me to figure out what to do. Let's see. Then on Saturday, I'm going to be back with Vishanti and Kip. At least that's the plan. Hopefully Vishanti's feeling better. So, you know, she was not feeling well last time. Why, she abandoned me and Kip, but that's okay. At least Bent didn't abandon this time. So, then on Tuesday, the plan is Tisdale Tuesday. I do have to confirm with Chesh, but she is pretty reliably up for the show. So that is what's coming up for the next week or so. And then Hillhugger, who's been a member for 39 months, says, Kent has never called someone stupid in a debate. Yeah, that's... I don't actually know if that's literally true, but he's definitely said the things
he
that people
says
said are stupid.
evolution is stupid.
Yeah.
So when he calls people evolutionists, I mean...
It's hard to...
what's the difference?
It's hard to infer anything else, yeah. He might not explicitly state it, but he clearly implies it all the time. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and furthermore, ICE must be abolished. Talk to y'all later. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bent Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, Sphincter of Doom, Regios, Landon Knoll, Ian Chen, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivera, Kelvin Rostock Van Manen, David Hercules, Joshua Geese, Volas, Dan Sheedy, Pega Jace, The Plastic Mouse, Arrow Dodger, Gordon Love Science, Amber Athelian, Pixie Purple, Agricola Siqua, and John Ackerman. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 15% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.